little bit of your story. And he's like, well, if you really want to hear it. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, well, it starts with a panic attack. And I'm like, dude, we can talk.
About 90 days after that panic attack, I bought my first house. And I didn't have all the things that would make you think that I should do that. When I made that decision at 3 a.m, I had bad credit, like a sub 600 credit score. I had $1,000 in my savings account. That's like all the money I had. We know we can learn how to do it. Like, you don't even need me to learn how to do it. You can just YouTube how to do it. But I want people who want to work with me because of the people aspect of real estate. And we want to be better human beings. And real estate's the business of leaving things better than you found it. And so I want people who realize that.
Why do you stay committed to a field that will serve you, but will challenge you?
What kept me going then was being able to retire her from her job. What keeps me going now is I want my children to always be able to be the people that they're called to be and not the people that they have to be because they need to go make money every day.
I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter.
Hey you, this is Christina Suter with Real Estate Breakthrough, and I am blessed, literally blessed, to have Henry Washington in the studio with me today. Woo, 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 woo.
Hey,
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
How are you? So good to be here.
Glad to have you here. We met at a conference, the Midterm Rental Conference, and I don't know who Henry is. I'm sorry, I apologize. I did not know your brand, who you are, all this other stuff. Forgive me. But I just saw this man walking through the door, and I went, let me talk to him. You know how that is. You're walking around a conference, and you're like, who should I talk to? Let me talk to him. I'm like, hi, I'm Christina. He's like, hi, I'm Henry. I'm like, so tell me a little bit of your story. And he's like, well, if you really want to hear it. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, well, it starts with a panic attack. And I'm like, dude, we can talk. Like, we can actually talk. That was the moment when I went, okay, he's present, he's authentic, and he's powerful in his own being. This is somebody I want to spend more time with. And it was literally that simple and that clear at the very beginning within your first words, your ownership of your space, your ownership of your being, and that you choose to be authentic. And it to me, after so many years of investing, I remember when a hard money loan was somebody who knew somebody named Gino, right? Like hard money loans were like way on the edge, and now they're like central to our, So I remember a time when the field wasn't full of people dedicated to being authentic and being in community and really delivering to each other. And I love that the real estate community has gone that direction. And so I feel graced and I feel lucky that that the field has changed so much and that people like you are a real solid voice in our world. So for people who don't know you, right, why don't you tell people your history? Let's bottom line what you're up to and where you started.
Yeah, absolutely. That I did. I really enjoyed meeting you, and it really did happen just like that. We were going opposite directions through a doorway, and I do that when people ask me that question. I like to give them an out because I have a rule about honesty. That's if you ask me for it, then I have to tell you. And so when somebody asks me that question, I have to give them the caveat, like, I'll tell you, but A, it's not a short story, and B, it's there's a lot to it. Like, and you were like, let me have it. And I was like, okay, here you go. And it was a great conversation. But myself, goodness, man, I've been investing since 2017, mostly the boring stuff. I do single families, small multifamily, long-term buy and hold. And I really enjoy it. We flip some houses, mostly just do flips to keep capital rolling in the business. It's not it's not some of these fancy, crazy things people are doing. It's that I like my niche and I like my bread and butter. Like I said, I've been doing it for about 6, almost 7 years, maybe 7 years, something like that. And it was good. I was a 9-to-5er for most of my life. Graduated college, got a technical degree, got a job, make great money doing software development and data analytics. And started to realize that even though I make great money, I still didn't have any. A lot of that was my own lack of financial education. I would make money and then spend more than I made. And the other half of that was, I got married and realized that you need more money when that happens sometimes. And
Yeah, actually, oftentimes it's the same.
usually. And that all those pressures, the pressures of making poor financial decisions, and then the pressures of getting married, and now seeing that those poor financial decisions were now impacting not just me, but my new wife, and the pressures of wanting to provide her with the life that I felt like she deserved and not being able to afford it, and the pressures of being newly married. I just freaked out, man. I just was like, man, she's going to figure out that I can't provide her the life that she wants, and I can't even take care of my own expenses, and she's going to leave me because, I look good on paper, but once you start doing the math and that, all the things
I do know, actually.
all the things your brain tells you that probably aren't true, but weighs heavily. And one night it just got to me after we had a conversation about our financial future, and had a panic attack in the middle of the night. And that panic attack led me to a Google search, which led me a Google search about money, because I was trying to figure out what are some ways I could make some extra money. And that Google search just kept putting real estate investing articles and videos and all this stuff in my face that I had never considered before. But the theme I started to realize was that just regular folks own real estate and are building wealth and creating financial freedom. And I was like, I want to do that. Like, if they can do it, I can do it. And so at that point, that's when I made a decision. I was going to start buying real estate. And about 90 days after that panic attack, I bought my first house. And I didn't have all the things that would make you think that I should do that. When I made that decision at 3 a.m, I had bad credit, like a sub 600 credit score. And I had $1,000 in my savings account. That's like all the money I had. And so I had no money and bad credit. And I was like, I should buy houses. That'll fix my problems. And so, but it made sense in my brain. So and I mean that. I just had a peace about it. And, I think that's the God part of it. Like, God was telling me, like, yeah, it may not make sense, but this is what I want you to do. And so I was comfortable with that. And, like I said, 90 days later, bought my first house, and then realized that it was way more powerful than I thought it was. And after I bought that first one, I was like, that was cool. I need to figure out how to do that again a lot right now. Right.
I want to highlight some things in your story, because it's we just had Stephen Pesavento at our meeting last night, PB Pasadena, and he talked about mindset, and I was surprised, again, given my history. Like, I'm used to being the mindset babe, like over here on my little side. This is what I do. I talk about mindset. I'm getting more and more like, hey, mindset, like, like a lot more about like blowing it from the top and starting the meeting with, hey, we're going to talk about mindset today. Whereas, when I first started my meeting in 2011, it was like, oh, so we're going to talk about real estate. And by the way, how you treat your network is how you grow your net worth, not just your network grows your net worth, but how you treat them, right? And all these sort of cultural things I would implement in the meeting. And I was hiding. And this guy walked up to me after one of my meetings and go, this is a spiritual meeting. I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm not telling everybody that. He said, why don't you say that? Why don't you just say it's a spiritual meeting? And I said, look, it's because if I wanted to run a spiritual meeting, I could be at a church and I could run a spiritual meeting. I could run what it means to be a good human being and choose to participate on the planet. And I could do that. But I'm not trying to find everybody who has a spiritual message first and then wants to invest in real estate. I'm trying to find the people that are good people, just good-hearted people doing everyday stuff, trying to find their way to a better life inside themselves. And if they recognize my words, integrity, treat your network well, pay it forward, win-win, if they recognize and resonate with my words, they'll keep showing up here. And that's the community we're going to develop here inside these walls, in that community. And so it just has become great because I can speak it clearer, louder, and more upfront as the years have gone by and as the community has shifted and changed. That's one. Two, let me highlight something in your story. You had a panic attack for whatever ego reasons, we have them or don't have them. And what you got out of it was committing to being a better human being. Period. Real simple. I'm freaking freaked out. I really want to be a better human being. Guess what I'm going to choose? I'm going to choose to be a better human being. Right? And sometimes that is the only way we know how to choose it. That's that moment where we make a decision that is so core in our being that it's like it reorders our DNA. This is who we're going to become because we chose it, knowing its absolute necessity. And that to me is the most powerful choices we can make. Now, we made choices like that as a little kid too. I must never, ever blank again. And those are the type of choices that can block us. Or you can make a choice in the same power and in the same stance that says, I choose to be this. I choose to be a light. I choose to make a difference. I choose to provide for my family. I choose to be somebody I respect for myself. Sorry, just wanted to rip on that for a minute.
Look, it is, I tell this story a lot, and you're right. I do the same thing with my community that I teach how to invest. Don't get me wrong. There are tactics you need to learn, and we teach those tactics, right? You can't do this business without tactics. But the community I'm trying to build is a community of people whose goal is to treat the people well who are on the other end of our real estate transactions. Because I think too many times people see dollar signs, right? And because it's a great way to make a lot of money. And so people see dollar signs and they get really focused on, learning how to be a good salesman and, learning how to close every deal. And there are some elements of that we need, but I want people who understand that there is a person's home on the other end of that transaction we're trying to close. This is sometimes the only wealth they've built in their whole life. This is where they've raised their kids and where they made lifelong memories. And we are trying to get a deal. And sometimes getting that deal does mean we get to help this person out of a tough situation. But sometimes you won't get a deal and still have the opportunity to help. And I want to work with people whose focus is, how do we treat the people right? How do we figure out ways to be of service? Because if I do that, the money comes. I'll make money. This is real estate. There will be ample opportunity for you to make money. But I want to work with people who are A, going to take care of the people on the other end of those transactions, B, are going to not just make money off of a community, but be of service to that community, and C, use the wealth and the time freedom that they create through real estate to be a blessing to the people around them. Like, those are the things that I want. That's what I want around me. And so that's the community that I'll build. We'll make money. That's easy. Yes, we'll teach you tactics. That's easy too. Like I say it's easy because it's like we didn't invent it. It was around well before we started investing in real estate. Like, there's probably very little you've learned over the past 5 years to 10 years that is brand new in the space of real estate. Like, it's all been around how to do it. And we know it works because we've got example after example, a decade over decade of this working. So we know it works. We know we can learn how to do it. Like, you don't even need me to learn how to do it. You can just YouTube how to do it, right? But I want people who want to work with me because of the people aspect of real estate. And we want to be better human beings. And real estate's the business of leaving things better than you found it. And so I want people who realize that.
So that's what I tell my daughter all the time. You don't have to be great. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to even pretend that you're powerful. You don't have to be big. Just leave it better than you found it. Like, it's just that is, something positive on the planet. So they tell this story of, this kid walking down the beach and there's a bunch of like starfish just stranded on the sand, and the kid's picking them up and throwing them back into the water, right? Just like, okay, let's do that. And my daughter actually did that one day. We were at the beach and there was a bunch of sea urchins stuck on the sand. She was literally putting them all back in the water, right? And this, supposedly the story goes, this grown-up walked up to the kid and went, well, there's so many of them. What difference are you really making? And the kid gave him an angry look, picked up the starfish, threw another one in the sand. He went, I made a difference to that one. And it's like, yeah, that's about as good as it gets. I don't care how big you get. It's either 1, 10, or 1,000 that you made a difference to, but you made a difference to that one. And ultimately, that's what I think is the greatest joy on this planet, right? And real estate feeds into that, and our skills feed into that. So what is it in your history that prepared you to be successful in real estate? What about your nature, your skills, or just your mindset that prepared you to be successful?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. I think it's a combination of something that my dad instilled in me and something that my mom instilled in me. And so my mother is just a warm, caring, inviting, kind, loving human. And she can be friends with anyone or anything, anywhere. Like, she's just like people, she's approachable, and she makes you feel like you want to be talking to her. Like she's and so I learned my people skills from my mother. And I'm an extrovert like my mother. And so the care I have for people, and I've always been wear my heart on my sleeve kind of guy, and an emotional kind of guy. And I think I get a lot of that from my mother as well, which has served me both well and not well in life, but that's part of it. I don't plan on changing who I am. And so I think that's where the heart part of my business comes from. She was the mom that all my friends called mom too. And, just, she was that person. And my father was the opposite. So introverted, quiet, standoffish. Once you break down the walls, he was great to hang out and talk with, but you got to figure out how to break them walls down, because does not look approachable, but was always an entrepreneur. He was a high school art teacher for his career, and teachers don't make a ton of money. And so to make ends meet, he would often have side businesses. It's like my whole life, I watched him do things on the side. He used to grow plants and pot them and sell them at the swap meet back when that was a thing. He owned an arcade, so kind of like a passive business. You don't have to be at all the time. Back when you used to have to go to a place to play video games before you couldn't just play them in your house. Yeah.
Random, but it's great.
Yeah.
Keep going. So arcade.
Yeah. So he owned an arcade. When I was at some point when I was growing up, he used to sell. I think he sold ice cream. Like, he was an ice cream man on the side at some point. He and then the biggest business, I think, side business he had was he owned a barbecue restaurant for about 10 years when I was growing up. And so I remember growing up in the barbecue restaurant. Like, that's where I would go after school and do my homework. And so I just always saw him have businesses as well as be a teacher. But he never talked to me about being an entrepreneur. Like, he never sat down and said, hey man, this is how you start your corporation, and this is how you file your taxes, and this. None of those things. All he wanted me to do was to get my degree, get good grades, get my degree, get a great job, climb the corporate ladder. Because if you think about when he was raised, like, those weren't opportunities afforded to people that looked like him, like not widely afforded. And so he worked very hard so that I would have those opportunities. And so he, in his mind, didn't want me to squander that, right? And he was being an entrepreneur to make ends meet, right? He wasn't trying to start a business that would, take him out of being a teacher. Like, he wanted to be a teacher. But what that taught me subconsciously is that I can start a business if I want to, right? I saw my dad do it, and so when I made this decision to become a real estate investor, knowing I would need to start this as a business, like I never wondered if I could. Like it was just like, oh, okay, I'll just start a real estate business, right? Like because I had so many examples growing up of that was something that you can do on the side, right? And so I think the combination of those two things is what really helped me define what my business was and not be.
Okay, so the kindness of your mom and your choice, your personality is created as such in that environment, and one might almost say the bravery and determination of your dad. I mean, to be a teacher during the day and run a restaurant at night or an arcade at night, that's a lot of determination. That's a lot of give to your family, right? That wasn't oh, I'm sorry, I'm an art teacher. This is what I do. This is who I am. And the family does that. And we all live with that. And then he comes home and has a beer or comes home and has a tea. I don't know whatever he drinks. Probably a beer. Okay, good. For my mom, it was a gin and tonic. Come home and but then he went, yeah, no, I'm going to do something quietly, determinedly. Probably didn't make a big deal out of it. Probably didn't walk around the house going, I'm so good. I provide for my family. Like he just did it. And those are very good role models. And you can see, I love that you can see in yourself the strengths that you've taken from them and the choices that you've made. So, yeah, I grew up in a matriarch. So in my mind, women just yep, that's what we do. We run the family, make the money. That's what we do. So, which I'm grateful for. And of course, my daughter has the same, is going to have the same expectations. We run the family, make the money. But yeah, it was unusual in its day. So, what really, I mean, normally I say, what's the moment that you chose to your financial freedom? But real estate is a tough field and it will challenge you. And it will, it'll say, hey, guess what? Not today, babe. Right? I liken it to baseball, right? Like you're a bat, you're a base, and you're lucky if you hit 4 out of 10, right? And so it's a field where you have to have a lot of grit and a lot of stick-to-itness to it. It's not going to be a home run every time. You got to put work into it. Why do you stay committed to a field that will serve you, but will challenge you?
Yeah. It's part of, I'm struggling because I can tell you why now. I'm trying to think of why then when I first started. So I think it's important to have a strong enough reason for doing it that keeps you going when the real estate punches you in the face, right? Because it will. And so when we're interviewing students to see if they want to, if they can be a part of our community, that's one of our questions. This is hard. It's going to make you want to quit. You're going to next week, you're going to be like, why am I doing this? Right. And so, right. And so what makes you want to push through that? Right. And so what I look for when I ask people that is, if your answer has more to do with somebody else than yourself, then you're probably more likely to stick to it. And so for me, my reason my panic attack came was because I wanted to make sure that I could provide my wife the life that she wanted. And in my brain, the way I wanted to be able to do that was to be able to have her one day just be able to wake up and decide what she wants to do. She doesn't have to go to work. Everything is taken care of. You get to do whatever you want to do. And so being able to have her quit her job was a big driver for me because I just wanted to give her that freedom and that life. And so when it got hard, it made it hard to quit because I didn't feel like I was quitting on me. I felt like I was quitting on her. And I quit on me all the time. There's a lot of people who, but people on the internet will tell you, you just got to push through it and blah, blah, blah. But we'll quit on ourselves all the time. I don't know how many diets I've started and quit like that. That's like, I'll quit on me all the time. But like when people stick to diets, why do they stick to it? Probably because they get some sort of health diagnosis or something when they realize like, hey, if I don't do something, I'm not going to be here for my family. Like it's the why. So what kept me going then was being able to retire her from her job. And then I've since done that. And what keeps me going now is I want my children to always be able to be the people that they're called to be and not the people that they have to be because they need to go make money every day. And so I want to build something that can provide them income so that if they need to go do something that's not going to make them money, but that's what God's calling them to do, that they can have that option. Like that's what I want to do. So that's what drives me. It's something else that's bigger than me, and but it's good because this crap is hard.
This crap is hard. I don't know what it is about your story. It's making me cry, but dude, you're making me cry. I'm just saying. Just saying. So I'll share with you my why, and I think a lot of people might know this, but so when I was a little kid, my mom was between the ages of 2 to 9. My mom was a single mom. And she was raising 3 kids. I was the youngest of 3. My mom was a single mom, and she would run it out of the house. And she would pick me up from preschool. I remember being at preschool and being the last kid there, and the teacher like cleaning up the room and looking at me, cleaning up the room some more, looking at me, like, why are you still here? Like, why are you still here? And like, I'm done cleaning, but I can't leave because your mom hasn't shown up yet. And so she was running a company, right? A little company of her own. She was a lighting consultant, and she was her and her partner were the only females in that whole field. It was run by engineers, and she was busy streaming her way in creating a business in a field that wasn't for women, but she was smart and she was determined, and she had 3 kids to feed. And that was her why, was feeding 3 kids. But I took that to mean that she didn't love me because she couldn't pick me up on time. That's what I made it mean. It isn't the truth. That wasn't the truth. The truth was she loved me enough that she was busting her butt, making sure we had food, taking care of her kids, right? But what I wanted my kids, I wanted to pick them up on time. That was what I wanted. In some ways, it's a very simple thing. I just wanted to pick up my kids on time from school. But I saw that it didn't always happen. And I saw how meaningful it can be, right? In somebody's world to go, I love you and I'm here, baby. And so was my commitment to my future children. And that's where my real estate career comes from and still comes from. I love you and I'm here because it lets me be here, like here, right? I'm here. I am sitting with you and I am focused on you and I am here, right? So yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Let's jump to the other side, because it's about being a good person, being a good human being, showing up with integrity and knowing your why, right? And living the life you want to be living and living it well. Tell us more about the skills. What's the secret sauce to your company? Like, why, you teach the skills because you got to have the skills to pay the bills, baby. I think it's a line from Turbo, the snail movie. You got the skills to pay the bills. You're a snail. So even a snail needs to have the skills to pay the bills. Go ahead.
Yeah. My business model really hasn't changed since I got started. So, I told you I had the panic attack. 90 days later, I bought the house, right? So obviously a lot happened in that 90-day span. And so during that 90-day span, I didn't know how to be a real estate investor, even though I decided I was going to be one. And so I was like, there's got to be people around here doing it. So I'll just go hang out with them a lot and figure out what they're doing. And so I started to go to all these meetups and real estate events. And it was like, I just started noticing that every single real estate event I went to, every single investor, no matter whether they had 100 properties or 0 properties, every single one of them always said, I either can't find any good deals to buy, or I need to be able to find money for the deals I want to buy, right? Like those were the 2 problems everybody was facing. And so me in my corporate life, like what they taught us is that every problem, they actually wouldn't even let us say the word problem. At the company I work for, it was like a no word. You had to say opportunity. So if you're struggling with something, you had to say, well, we have this opportunity, because every problem is essentially an opportunity for you to figure out how to fix it and be better. And so I was like, great, I see 2 opportunities here, right? If I can figure out how to get really good at finding deals, well, then I've got, at least if I can't buy them, I got a room full of people who will buy them, right? If I can find deals and sell them deals. And so I was like, I'll just start there, because that seems to be the problem, the common denominator that I'm hearing amongst all these investors. And so I just started to research, like, who is good at finding deals within the real estate industry. And everything pointed to wholesalers. Like, wholesalers were the people that were really good at finding deals, because that was their business. Yeah, that's their business. They find the deals and sell the deals. And so I said, well, I don't want to be a wholesaler, because I want to find the deals and buy the deals. But if I can set my business up like a wholesaler to generate all the deals that they're getting, and then I can just pick and choose the ones I want to buy, like, that seems like a good plan to me. And so I just started to study wholesalers. I would just buy books about being wholesalers and listen to podcasts about being a wholesaler, even though I did not want to be a wholesaler. But I wanted to see how they were doing what they were doing. And so that taught me all about direct to seller marketing, and that I needed to go direct to seller. And so that's what I started to do. I started to figure out, okay, well, what are all the ways that they're finding deals? And I would write them down. And then I would look at all these different ways of finding deals, and I would say, okay, well, which one makes sense for me, right? Because everybody's different. And so these are the same things we teach our students. Like, don't go out there and try to do some deal finding strategy that you ain't built for, right? Too many times we lie to ourselves, because that's what the self-help books will tell you, right? Like, just push through it. You don't want to make cold calls, make them anyway, right? And it's like, right. And it's like, but that ain't me. So I'm gonna say, I'll make 20 cold calls today, and I'll make 5 and get cursed out 3 times and be like, I'm done with this, right? Like, I ain't built for it. Like, I'm gonna be honest about who I am, right? Like, that ain't. And so I was like, of all these strategies I'm learning about, like, I would hear them, and I'm like, if I'm listening to like how they go and it's making my stomach turn, I'm like, that ain't for me, that ain't for me. And then I heard about direct mail, and I was like, okay, well, that seems like something I can do, because then everybody that's calling me wants to call me. They may be calling me because they want to curse me out, but at least they're calling me because they want to be talking to me, right? And so I can deal with that. Like, that was fine for me. And so I picked a strategy that fit my personality, because I wasn't going to lie to myself about what I was capable of. And I picked a strategy that I could afford to fund appropriately, because direct mail at that time was cheaper than it is now. But through the research I had done, I was like, look, I can afford to send direct mail, and I think I can stick to it. And so that's the strategy I picked. And I think that still is what people should do when you're trying to figure out how to find deals. You have to realize finding deals costs you something. It's either going to cost you time and effort, or it's going to cost you dollars. Right? It's not free to find deals. If people say, well, I found this deal through networking, somebody brought me a great deal, so it was free. No, it wasn't free. Networking takes time and effort. You got to put yourself around people. You got to be able to tell them what you want. You got to be able to do it consistently enough that it starts to generate leads. If you just go to one meetup a month and tell somebody you want to buy deals, they're not going to send you deals. They're not going to think of you, right? They got a million other people they'll send that deal to who's on the top of their mind. It takes time and effort. And so you have to figure out, what is it going to cost me, and can I afford the thing that it costs, right? And so if you don't have money and you want to put time and effort in, you got to figure out, well, how much does that really cost me in terms of time and effort? And am I willing to put that much time and effort in, or vice versa with the money? And so that's how I picked the strategy. I landed on direct mail. That's what I started with. And I just hammered it relentlessly, consistently, until it produced results. Because again, you don't have to guess, does this stuff work? It's been working for people for decades. We know it works. So you just have to be able to be super consistent about it. And so that's kind of how I picked my strategy. And then as that started to produce results and I started to get deals and then monetize those deals, I could then afford to try other strategies in order to kind of grow and scale. And so I guess the lesson there, the tactics is I operate like a wholesaler in terms of generating my own leads and my own deals through direct to seller marketing. And then the other strategy that I learned, the other problem I learned how to solve was the money. And so I was fortunate enough, not by mistake, but God led me in that direction. So when I got my very first lead for my very first deal, I put the deal under contract and I had no money. And so I was like, how do I buy this deal? I need money. And so I said, I'll go to a bank because banks have money. That's where people get loans, right? And so I just went to the bank closest to my office because the deal I put under contract from a coworker at my office. And so I took this piece of paper, this contract we had signed, and I was like, I'll go to a bank. And I literally went to the bank down the street and I walked in the front door and I said, can somebody help me buy this house? And I pointed to the contract and it happened to be a local community bank. And the person in the lobby happened to be the commercial loan officer, right? So it's not like I knew where I was going and what I was looking for when I got there, right? And so he was like, well, come in my office. And he took the contract and he's like Googling it. And then he was like, oh man, it's a great location. This is a really, really good price for this house. How did you get that price? And I was like, look, that's my buddy's in a spot. He wants me to, is this something you can help me with? And he was like, man, we'd love to lend you money on this deal. He was like, as long as you got a 15% down payment, we'd love to do that. It's about 20 something grand. Do you have 20 grand? And I was like,
sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I did not have that money, but in my eyes, that was good news because the asking price. I mean, I was buying it for $116,000. So
Exactly. I only needed 20 out of 116.
All right. I narrowed it all the way down to 20 grand from 116. I was winning right now. Right. And so I took that as a win. And so I went to my network of investors who I'd been building relationships with by going to these meetings. And I just started asking them, man, how the heck can I get this money? Like, how do y'all do this? And they would literally sit down with me and started going through all these things. And we landed on, I borrowed the money from a 401k. I say a 401k because I didn't have one. So we used my wife's 401k. But, and then I bought that house with none of my own money besides that $1,000 that I had. And so that taught me about local community banks and so after I bought that house, the bank called me and said, hey, that house was $116,000. Our appraisal put it at $165,000. You got a good chunk of equity. Do you want to take out a line of credit on that equity? And I was like, I don't know what that means. And he explained it to me and he was like, here's what you can do with this. So if you bring us more deals like this, and then we'll finance the 85%, you can use this line of credit that we're giving you as your 15% down payment. And then that way you're not bringing money out of your own pocket and you can do more deals. And then as you either fix it up, you can refinance it, pay off the line of credit, or you can fix it up and sell it and pay back everything. And I was like, that sounds amazing. Let's do that. And so I learned that I had now solved the money problem, right? I knew how to get the deals. I knew how to get the money. And that taught me about small local banks. I learned a lot, because he told me he wanted to lend to me and he hadn't even ran my credit. Like, he had no clue if I was, but what he saw as a local community bank is he's like, I got somebody local who has a great real estate deal. And so he was like, if we lend to you and you suck and don't make your payments, we'll just take the house. And we'll take the house at $116,000. Even if we sell that house for $130,000, which is substantially less than it's worth, we'll make way more money doing that than we will on the interest you're going to pay on this loan. Like, it was such a low risk investment for them. They were like, we want these types of loans at our bank. And so it taught me a lot about financing through work. And he was willing to teach me too. So I would just go to this guy's office when I had deals and he would talk me through how all this can work. And so so just like that, after a couple of months in the business, I realized, okay, I need to get good at really finding deals. And I started to implement those strategies. And I knew I knew how to work with small local banks. And so what that taught me was I had a bank I could work with, but now I knew how to go talk to other banks because I knew how to speak their language and what they were looking for. And I started to build these relationships with small local banks. And so I had the deal flow and the money flow, and that helped me grow my business.
So education and networking. Your story is rich with both of those. And those to me are the two cornerstones: education, networking. And behind that is mindset, the stuff we talked about at the beginning. And you just double down on that. So it sounds like the secret sauce of your company is acquiring deals, knowing what you're looking for, being able to fund those deals. Yep. And then making a long-term healthy investment out of that.
Yep, absolutely. It is all about generating the leads, because if you have lead flow, that's your money. The better your deals are, the easier it's going to be to find the money. And so our business has always been find the deals, buy the deals, and then figure out how to monetize the deals, because I may monetize them a number of different ways, but if it's a really good deal, I have options. So I can choose the option that fits my business and my finances at the time, right? And so people ask, how do you know if you're going to flip a house or rent a house? And I never look at that in my acquisition strategy. Like I never go, all right, today we're going to go buy a house to flip. Like it's not that. I just go, we're going to start marketing for great deals. We're going to buy everything that's a deal. And then we'll figure out what we're going to do with that deal sometimes after we buy it. Because if I bought it right, I have the option to flip it, rent it, wholesale it, like all the exit strategies should work.
Right. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And now you do that as a business model, right? But also you teach it. So I think you teach it, and I think you got a book, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I do. Right? I do.
Talk to me.
That is literally the premise of my book. I was fortunate enough to be able to write a book published by BiggerPockets called Real Estate Deal Maker. And it is essentially a two-part book. The first half of the book is all about what are all the ways you can look at potentially finding deals, both in those methods. Some of those methods cost money, some of those methods cost time, but it teaches you the fundamentals of all of those methods. And that way you can select the method that works for you and your personality and your finances. And then the second half of the book is about funding the deals, right? And because these are the two problems most investors are going to face. Like if you were able to have lead flow, like from finding deals, and money flow, like money to buy those deals, that's not money in your personal bank account, you'll grow and scale your business at whatever pace you're comfortable growing and scaling your business, right? If you buy houses, what market are you looking to buy deals in right now?
I'm looking in your market, Arkansas.
Right. So if I called you tomorrow and I said, I got a landlord, if you wanted to buy single families, right? So if I called you tomorrow and said, I got a landlord selling 5 single family homes. They're in decent shape. They got tenants in them. She's just ready to retire. She doesn't want to bother with her tenants. She's not trying to put anybody out. She's not trying to clean them up. She just wants out. She wants out next week, right? And so she's willing to sell them at a 40% discount, 30 to 40% discount. And I have a hard money lender or a private money lender who loves Northwest Arkansas, so much so that they're willing to put up 95%. You just got to bring a 5% down payment to buy these homes. How many of these would you like to buy?
Lots. I'll buy lots.
Yeah, you're gonna buy as many as makes sense for you, right?
Exactly.
Because
as soon as I get that one done, I'll do the next one. Right. Sorry.
Right. Because the deal flow is solved, the money flow is solved, and so you'll buy as many as it makes sense for you. And so that's what we want to teach people with the book. So the second half of the book is about funding deals. Now, the way I teach funding is different, because I want people to be fundamentally sound real estate investors. And that means you need to understand what are all of the ways I could potentially underwrite a deal. And what most people do is they learn 1 or 2 ways of financing deals, and they get those 1 or 2 hammers, and then they're trying to hammer every deal they find with that hammer. And that may not be the best tool for that deal. I can buy 2 deals that are almost identical and may finance them differently based on the different circumstance of each deal. I want people to be able to know all the ways to finance a deal, so that when they get a deal, you can figure out what's the best financing that fits this deal and fits my financial situation. And when those 2 things intersect, that's the financing you should use, right? And most people, they're just going to, if you don't have a 20% down payment, why are you shopping around for conventional loans? Like, that's not the loan you should use. You don't have the down payment for it. There's another way you need to underwrite that deal. but you have to know what all these options are. And then sometimes you have to know how to piece together multiple financing strategies to take a deal down so that you can do it in the way that fits your finances. And so we go through multiple ways to finance deals. And then I give lots of case studies of deals that I've done with multiple types of financing to show people kind of how you can weave these things together.
Real estate deal maker. I mean, it's really good. I love the title when you first told it to me, and I love it just as much now. Because I mean, it is about being able to make deals, and creative financing. They call it creative financing. Right? Creative financing is all different types of things. In my mind, I'm thinking about that sort of master woodworker. He's got all these tools on the wall of how he can create a table, and he's not going to make that table the same way every time, but he knows his tools and he knows them well, and he can just pull them off the wall and go, this is the right tool. Right?
Yep.
And really being willing to to have mastery in that area and depth of knowledge can make a big difference in what deals you're going to take down, how many you can take down, how comfortable you are taking them down.
100%. You got it.
So I love that. When does that book come out? It's a pre-order right now, right?
Yeah, so it's available right now for pre-order. You can go to biggerpockets.com/dealsbook, DEALSBOOK, and you can pre-order it, and it will be shipped to you when it comes out on June 11th.
Okay, I'll have to go pre-order it because there are things I'm good at, and I'm not good at everything. I still got to build up my toolkit, right? All right. So if people want to get a hold of you, how do people interact with you? You have students, right? You have students, so people can interact with you as a student. Do you use other people's money? Can people fund deals?
Yeah, we use lots of other people's money, or we'll teach you how to go use and find other people's money. Yeah, best place to find me is on Instagram. It's at the Henry Washington on Instagram. And if you are interested in being one of my students, you can go to www.seeyouattheclosingtable.com, all spelled out. So SEEYOUAT, theclosingtable.com, and you can fill out the application. Like I said, we don't work with everybody. We want to work with kind, good-hearted people.
All right. It's good to know. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I so appreciate it. I honor you, man. I love it. This is Christina
so
Studer.
Glad you stopped me.
Yeah, just randomly. I looked down and went, what do you know? Hey, dude. Hi, Henry. I'm Christina. This is Christina Studer on Real Estate Breakthrough. You can find podcasts every 2 weeks. We're on lots and lots of platforms. We're on Roku TV, YouTube, Amazon. And we also have iHeartRadio, Spotify, and iTunes. Lots of places where you can find us. And keep your mindset straight. Keep moving yourself forward and finding that success you're committed to because of your why. ChristinaSuter.com.